And TGIF, everyone. Welcome into the First Call podcast. He's Scott Shapiro. I'm Jeremy Plonk, representing First Bet and Express Bet. A lot cooking around the country this weekend, of course. It is Pegasus Preview Day at Gulfstream Park on Saturday. The Road to the Louisiana Derby kicks off at the fairgrounds. And the trail at Remington Park comes to a close with the Springboard Mile Kentucky Derby points on the line Saturday night. Closing race of the season at Remington Park in that one. So, Scott, we've got a lot and a pretty diverse lineup this week, but the 3-year-olds to be are certainly percolating this week.
They sure are. I can kind of sense the Derby trail is upon us. I know we've had some points races already, and I know the races this weekend aren't going to necessarily give points to get you into the gate, but it's kind of that time where you and I and many others start to wonder if these are the horses that maybe, someone in this race is good enough to get in the starting gate, and who knows, maybe we'll see the Derby winner before too long.
That's kind of the excitement once we get past the Breeders' Cup, and certainly as that calendar approaches the end of the calendar year. Closing day tonight at Penn National. They've got a carryover in the Super High Five there that has to go, and a nice carryover in the Pick Six at Oaklawn today as well if you're playing on Friday. Well, let's talk about the Saturday races that we'll handicap for those of you on our video channels. Be sure to like, share this out, comment in the comment sections. Let us know who you like this weekend. For those on our traditional audio podcast channels, here are the 8 races Scott and I will handicap on today's show. We'll start at Gulfstream Park with races 9, 10, and 11. The Suwanee River, the Harlan's Holiday, and the Fort Lauderdale will be our 3 stakes races there. To fairgrounds we go as they tune up towards that Louisiana Derby trail. The Gun Runner, the big one in that one for the 3-year-old colts. That'll be race 11. But prior to that, we'll talk about the Tenacious in race number 8 and the Untappable on the Fairgrounds Oaks Trail in race number 10. To Oaklawn Park we go. Stakes action there. The Tinsel Stakes. So the road to the Oaklawn handicap. Older horses going a mile and an eighth on the main in the Tinsel. That'll be race number 8 at Oaklawn. And we'll wrap things up as we told you. Race number 12, Remington Park on Saturday night. The Springboard Mile, $300,000, 10 points in Kentucky Derby qualifying to the winner of that one. A couple promos to tell you about. We've got the $5,000 Exactathon on Saturday at Gulfstream Park. Take down $2 exactas throughout the card. If you hit, 5 or more, Scott, then you'll
5 or more. Yeah,
$2,500, your share of that with other players on the platform. And if you have the most exactas of any of the players on the First Bet and Express Bet platforms, $2,500 goes to the player who has the most exacta hits. $2 minimum play. Be sure to sign up and register for all the promos. Also, a promo to tell you about at Remington Park. Bet $100 on the Springboard Mile card on Saturday. Get $10. So basically a $10 rebate playing that Remington Park card on Saturday night. Let's get to it. Let's head to Gulfstream Park. First up, the Suwanee River Stakes, race number 9. Of course, the Suwanee River from Georgia down into Florida, the famous song. I like to drop this in once a year. The composer of Way Down Upon the Suwanee River is the same guy who did My Old Kentucky Home. Stephen Foster, the composer of both. So a racing tie in there, but a geographical tie, obviously, with the state of Florida. Suwanee River Stakes, race number 9 on the card at Gulfstream. Turf Milers going here as the Pegasus Preview Day gets rolling with some stakes. Who do you like in the 9th, Scott?
Stephen Foster. They got a big race named after him in Kentucky. He's not chopped liver in the bluegrass state. I think it's going to be a fast pace here in the first turf stake of the day on that Pegasus Preview card down there. You got quite a bit of speed signed up. I'm hoping that the bettors flock to moving on up, who I think is a little vulnerable. I think she had some good trips last year, not quite the same filly. I like number 4, Crevel d'Oro. This is a filly who now enters the Jose D'Angelo barn. Most of her career thus far has been spent in the Marcassi barn, but her 2 most recent starts was for Lauren Robeson. Not a trainer that I know a lot about, but I know she's had some success, and I remember having a win or 2 at Churchill on the turf there, so capable. Man, this one put in a couple of good runs recently. We're going to take a look back at the Kentucky Downs win, where she won at 12-1, and then she was 39-1 or almost 39-1 in the Gold Dakova, which is a grade 3 out of Del Mar, but keep in mind that was the Breeders' Cup undercard. Right. So it was a full field that day. It was a high-quality field, and the winner, Special Juan, was awesome and would be, 1-9 in this field. So I think Crevel d'Oro had a better effort last time than it looks on paper and should be set for a good one here for our new barn.
Not afraid to chase a challenge from Kentucky Downs to Del Mar and now to Gulfstream on the Pegasus World Cup Preview Day card. Let's go back to Crevel d'Oro's last victory, that at Kentucky Downs in Allowance Company.
the bright orange. Watch This Birdie is next, followed wide out by Strikingly Spun. Craval Doro's the leader, ducking back to the inside rail. Craval Doro kicking 2 in front, close to the wire. Craval Doro from Bell of Rights, and she's looking lucky, and Craval Doro lands the prize. She's looking lucky's in a photo for second with Bell of Rights, and then Strikingly.
She's in good form. Some others in this field in good form as well. Aussie Girl coming off a win in the Noble Damsel for Will Walden. And Leo Toro coming off a win in the Ginger Punch to run off 3 straight since coming to the barn of Saffy Joseph Jr. Won the last start for Lynch, and now has won 2 in a row since coming to Saffy's barn. So a couple last out winners in there. Cravaldoro, a winner 2 starts back, and again, coming off that good 4th in the Goldacova out west. Let's go to the Harlan's Holiday Stakes, race number 10 on the card on Saturday at Gulfstream Park. Harlan's Holiday, named for one of the better Ohio breds of all time for sure. Back in 2002, the winner of the Florida Derby, the Bluegrass Stakes, Harlan's Holiday, the racehorse, earned more than $3.6 million. Again, that puts him up there with any Ohio bred probably that you're talking about all time. Now, he had a great 3-year-old year. The 3-year-old year for Poster didn't go as expected, Scott. This is a horse who won the Remsen Stakes last year, and his 3-year-old season just kind of never got uncorked. Down at Tampa in the Sam F. Davis to the Jeff Ruby. He was 3rd and 4th in those 2. Then sidelined for most of the year and came back a winner last time out. What do you think of Poster? He's kind of the real X factor in this race, where you've got a runner like Skippy Longstocking in here who's proven goods, but seems to be a bit off form.
Yeah, that is the question. I think first and foremost, what are you going to do with Skippy Longstocking? Because as good as maybe Poster can be coming second off the layoff here, getting back to the dirt, he's not going to be good enough to beat Skippy on his best efforts like the 1-3 back in the Gold Cup. But I think you got to decide if you're going to, if you like Skippy. I think he's going to be too short of a price, like you said, with the question marks. So you look at the field, and I think the only one with upside is Poster. Real significant upside. It's a weird spot, though, JP. Hardy, Ian Hardy got 1 for 31 at Gulfstream over the last 5 years. Only 2 starters there since 2022, though. So weird spot for them to pick. This horse, he ran really well on the dirt, but also ran well in his other starts over the turf and the all-weather. I'm not sure exactly what they're thinking here, but he's done very little wrong. He's shown the ability to finish on dirt. Yeah. And if he steps it up, he could spring the minor upset here.
Back in his 2-year-old year, he was one of the ones we were talking about, last year around this time, a winner of the Remsen Stakes. He'd been 3 for 3 lifetime and heading into that sophomore campaign. Let's take the fans back to his Remsen win and see what got people excited about Poster as a 3-year-old.
Big rally in. Poster's got the momentum. Poster's taking the lead. It's Poster who's trying to kick away, and the Remsen is doing just that. Aviator Guy is in the clear. It's Poster who's kicking away, now up by 2. Is going to have to hold off an oncoming rush of a lugging in Aviator Guy, but Aviator Guy is absolutely flying down the center of the racetrack. Poster is almost there. Aviator Guy is lunging. Poster needs a line. Aviator Guy, photo finish. Oh, it's a photo.
In blue, we'll see if Poster, who's a horse who hasn't run on the dirt that much, that was one of his 2 dirt starts through 6 races so far. I think maybe they're just trying to kind of give him a spin over the track, kick the tires for the Pegasus World Cup, and see if he's that kind of horse. He's going to have to run a good race here. The Pegasus will be much tougher than this, of course, but at least you get a mile and a 16th over the track here at Gulfstream and see how he handles it. He was in Florida last year, but went to Tampa for that race. And so this will be his first go over the track at Gulfstream Park. Poster against Skippy Longstocking seems to kind of be the matchup in this particular spot. A couple others in here. You've got horses coming off wins like Con Campania, the Chilean in there. Bobby DeBona takes over the training for this one, coming off a win in the handicap ranks. Another handicap winner was Classic, of course, but he's kind of a Florida bred that we know what he is. Like you mentioned, the upside and the horse who seems like there could be some ceiling in here would seem to be Poster. Interesting race. I don't know how great of a gamble it is. If Skippy Longstocking gets hammered and the price rises on some of the others, I don't know. What do you think you might get on Poster? You've got Flavian Pratt there, 3-1 or more. Okay.
That's the problem. I don't see it as a great gamble, but I definitely know I would not bet on Skippy Longstocking in this spot. He could win by 10 lengths. Wouldn't shock me at all, getting back home and whatnot, facing lesser. It's interesting, though, with Hold My Bourbon on the rail, that's another Saffy. If he stays in the race, he's got nowhere to go but to the front. So I would think they're going to maybe try to sit just off with Skippy. Maybe it'll heat up a little, and that'll help Poster or Classic, of course. But, Yeah, a little bit of a 2-horse race here in terms of class.
Inside speed can be tough at Gulfstream going those mile on the 16th, right? Short run to the first turn. They use the 16th pole finish line. So a lot of advantage to being able to get out of there from the inside at that configuration at Gulfstream. We'll stay at Gulfstream Park for race number 11. Next up here is the Fort Lauderdale. It's our express bet race of the week. Nice field of 10 in here. Some veterans that we know over this racetrack, and defending champ Major Dude back for a title defense in the Fort Lauderdale. This is a prep for the Pegasus World Cup Turf. Or race of the week. You can get that in your email inbox each and every week. Sign up for the email newsletter, Express Bet and First Bet, to get that in your email every week. Again, we've got a good field in here. Wolfie's Dynagos, one of the better synthetic horses in the country. He's on the turf in here with the Turfway Synthetic Championships on Sunday rescheduled. You'd think that Wolfie's Dynagos may have run a Turfway and been entered in that last week, but he's going to try the grass in here. You've got Major Dude, who's the defending champion in this race. Cagino's done absolutely nothing wrong in winning the Red Bank and the Red Smith in the last two. Those races at Monmouth and Aqueduct, but we know this horse can run well over the course at Gulfstream as well. Good competitive group in here. I don't think there's a particular lead pipe kind of favorite. I think there's a couple different options where the public could go.
Yeah, they got a real good field for this one. I think Wolfie's Dynagos is the likeliest winner. If he doesn't regress off that monster effort, I know most of his success has been over the all-weather, but he ran a huge race last time, went fast early and forgot to stop in the River City, which compares, pretty solidly to this field, a little softer. But I think he's the one to beat. But I think the one to bet in here is number 5, Beach Gold. You mentioned the runners that are going to take the lion's share of the money. And I think this is a horse that could get a little bit overlooked. And there's a couple of things to like. Well, first off, he hasn't done very much wrong of late. For Patrick Biancone, he's been freshened up. He showed an affinity for this course. But he gets a big rider upgrade to Junior Alvarado. No disrespect to Keith Asmussen, but, that's a significant rider upgrade with 2. And he was up against it from the, basically taking on the grade 1, the best, turf milers we have here in the States in the turf mile at Keeneland. So he gets a little class relief, and I think he should sit a real good forward trip just off the pace setters. Hopefully gets a good setup.
It was Junior and Biancone won the Turf Stakes last Saturday at Gulfstream, if memory serves me there as well. So they're looking to maybe double back down.
Layabout, right? Layabout.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, layabout. Let's go back to the last victory for Beach Gold. It was in August on the Kentucky Downs Millions preview at Ellis Park.
Epic ride to tackle Encino. Epic ride in Encino. 1-2 off the turn. There's Epic ride right alongside of Encino. Mercante is third, covering Camor. Abino Amode from the inside is Beach Gold, who's made up a lot of ground, and he's coming home like a good thing with a strong rail rally. Check out Beach Gold at 22-1.
I think it's a good turf course to kind of give you a little comp down to Gulfstream Park. We know Beach Gold runs well at Gulfstream, but turf courses that play similar, those kind of shorter crop turf courses, not the big lush ones. Ellis Park certainly one of the top of the list of those kind of top of ground turf courses that they really get over in the summertime. That should play well here at Gulfstream, and a lot of times you'll see horses who do well on similar turf courses be able to transfer that, and you certainly saw that in the form with Beach Gold at Ellis and at Gulfstream. 3 for 6 over the turf at Gulfstream, so we know he can handle it here. That's Scott's top pick in here. I went with the 6, Cagino. It's Flavian Pratt for Shug McGahee, a winner in 4 of his last 5, and Cagino's a horse who has 3 starts at Gulfstream, all top 2 finishes in there. Horse who's got a little bit of tactical ability, doesn't get too far off of it, up from a mile to a mile and 3/8, and now kind of cutting back right in the middle here at a mile and an 1/8. I think Cagino's consistent and pretty trustworthy in here. I'm afraid of taking too short of a price, though. I think Major Dude will take money, though, for Todd Pletcher. Defending champ in this race was 2-1 when winning it last time. He was a big favorite, 3-5 last time out in New York, so he tends to get bet. I'm hoping Major Dude takes some money in here. I don't want to take Cagino at too short of a price, though, Scott. I don't think he holds any major advantage over the field, but I like him best in this group.
I think he's the one that's the most likely to run his race, but those are compact fields the last couple of races where he was a short price. So to me, I'm not rushing to bet him, but there's no way I would leave him out. In terms of the exactathon, I'll be playing Beach Gold, King Beach Gold with your pick and Wolfie's Dynagos. So that's the way I saw that, maybe pressing up with my top pick on top.
All right, so 5 with the 6-2, the way Scott's looking at the exactathon. Again, $5,000 exactathon at Gulfstream Park. That's throughout the whole card. Take down 5 exactas, $2 minimum on those exacta plays for the contest. Make sure you play $2 minimums there. Be sure to register for the exactathon. It's just extra cabbage in your account if you hit those exactas throughout the card. And it's not like you got to pick one exacta per race. I mean, it's just hit 5 races. So, I mean, you could have, 10 different exacta plays in a particular race in order to take down the one winning ticket. It's not necessarily you got to go 5 out of 10 in picking, cold exactas throughout the card. So really nice promotion, a chance for you to add some good money into your account. So take advantage of that Saturday, the exactathon at Gulfstream Park. Let's switch up now from Gulfstream, where Pegasus Preview Day is in the books from our handicapping standpoint. And we'll take a look at the Road to the Louisiana Derby kicking off at Fairgrounds in New Orleans on Saturday. We'll look at the Tenacious Stakes. That is race number 8, the Untappable, the 10th, and the 11th, the Gunrunner Stakes. Let's start things off in the Tenacious Stakes, a race named for the 1958 and 1959 New Orleans handicap winner, Tenacious. Good quality to have in a racehorse. Not all have it. Some have brilliance. Not many have tenacity. Who do we like in the Tenacious Stakes? A mile and a 16th on the main track here. Maybe the start to the New Orleans handicap trail for some of these.
Yeah, you would think horses like Just a Touch and Not This Boy, amongst others, would hope for that. Maybe Corabino, Home Wide. I didn't say that right, probably. But what I see in common with those three is they all kind of want to be forward in two-turn races. So I'm going to play for them to go at it a little bit. I know it might be a lot to ask for a collapse in here with the 3 top horses all going at it. But I think the 4th best horse here, and maybe getting better, and maybe better than the 4th best horse, is number 6, Sir Greyland. He'll race at Fairgrounds for the first time, but he's coming in off a nice win at Churchill Downs against second-level allowance foes. He certainly is the best finisher in this field. He's been a little disappointing to the bettors at times, but hopefully he's coming around here at the right time for Kenny McPeak. I don't know if it's the right time necessarily for what they want. They might want the New Orleans Classic, but personally, this would be the right time for me.
Sir Greyland with Brian Hernandez Jr. aboard. Good to have him back. He was aboard last time when this horse won in November, battling back from some serious injuries. Hernandez, he can bring one up the fence to get a victory. Maybe he'll try to employ a similar kind of style here with Sir Greyland. As you mentioned, the speed should clear out in this field. Let's go back and take a look at his last victory at Churchill Downs.
This wall of horses with a big opening to try and cut the corner down inside. Sir Greyland comes charging off the turn and kicks away to lead by 2. Big Blue Line comes up the inside. Duke of Duval rallies outside. Sir Greyland, though, clear by 4. Duke of Duval and Big Blue Line. Sir Greyland and Brian Hernandez Jr. win it by 2.5.
That's Scott's pick here in the Tenacious Stakes. What about the favorite in here at 7-5, Just a Touch? When he gets things his way and when he runs his race, he looks like he's going to be one of the ones in the handicap division, a dominant type performer. But he's got a lot of L's on the resume and races where you thought he wouldn't lose. What do we make of a horse like this who probably lacks some of that tenacity we talked about?
Well, the 2 biggest races of his career, I backed him in. The Met Mile, which is the more recent of the 2, it was okay. It was okay. It was out of the Wilson chute. I don't want to hold it against him too much over the off track. The other one was a race in Kentucky called the Derby. So I have a little bit of a thing against this horse because he just absolutely didn't run a step that day. He was totally shied away. Anyhow, he's the one to beat. He's got a lot of talent. I don't trust him. He just lost at 1-9.
Yeah. He's going to take heat to the inside. Coromito Omaide has speed to the inside, just a touch in the 2. So the 2 speeds in this race are right next to each other. 1-2. Not This Boy, a horse who's 2-1 in the morning line, is a horse who's, for Doug Cowens and Jose Ortiz coming off races where he's gone right to the front and he's to the outside of those 3. There could be a lot of pressure on them going into the first turn here over the course of the mile and a 16th. Doug Cowens, the trainer of Next, by the way, and we all thought Next was retired and kind of out of sight, out of mind. Remember him as the big marathon runner a year or so ago, winning all those races, 1.5 miles, 1 3/4. Apparently he's back in training and looking to make a start here soon. So Doug Cowens' barn kind of heating back up.
You're going to pick him in the Classic again? I just really made myself feel crappy about Just a Touch, so I had to bring you along for the ride. But just one thing about not
thanks for reminding me that I picked next in the Breeders' Cup.
I just admitted I picked the horse. First time in my life, I had the dead last horse.
That was a self-inflicted wound, though. What you did to me was a stab in the back.
Yeah, this is true. Not this boy. I think this horse has a lot of talent. I thought he was going to have a little bit of a better late part of the year. I think he ran too hard against Hit Show. And I'm a little concerned that we're never going to see the best of them, or maybe you'll need some time off. These are good horses, though, that Sir Gratham's going to have to, really get a nice setup to run down.
Let's go to the Untappable Stakes next. Fairgrounds race number 10 on the card Saturday. The Untappable, named for the 2014 Kentucky Oaks winner. She went through that Fairgrounds path, won the Rachel Alexandra, won the Fairgrounds Oaks, and then capped off that really good season in 2014 by winning the Breeders' Cup Distaff for trainer Steve Asmussen. You'd expect Asmussen to be present in a race like the Untappable. He is not, but most of the other regulars in New Orleans are there. You've got Brad Cox, you've got Kenny McPeak, and you've got Tom Amos with potential players in this spot. Pashmina is a horse who's coming off a big win last time out for Rob Atras. Didn't really show much on the turf in the debut at Keeneland, but watch this horse take off in the stretch here and win the first start on the main track for trainer Atras here at the Fairgrounds. Pashmina, one to watch here coming up in the Untappable.
Now coming toward the quarter pole. Lit Up is coming with a wide run. Gwen to win in between fillies. Bella Liberty showed that speed, but has dropped back, and the distant is Plantain. These maiden juvenile fillies homeward bound after 3/4 in 1 minute 13.64 seconds. Pashmina as Lit Up continues to charge hard on the outside, and it's down to them as Lexico is back in third. Gwen to win is fourth. Bella Liberty is a spent force. With Ben Curtis, it's Pashmina, the daughter of Constitution, putting a big margin on them today. Pashmina at second asking, won by 9 from Lit Up. Third's close. Gwen to win dived to the finish from...
Maybe he's the last stride or two, but that was ridden out until the last, 10 yards of the race there by Ben Curtis. Impressive performance, got a 71 buyer. That stacks up pretty well with most of them in here. Scott, do you like Pashmina coming off that big win, or are you going somewhere else?
Well, let's just call a spade a spade. This is not a very legitimate stakes race, You've got a lot of horses coming out of starters and maiden claim. The 5-2 favorite ran in a 50 maiden claimer and just won a starter at Churchill. So let's take this race with a grain of salt when we see it moving forward as handicappers. That's the first thing I would like to mention. Secondly, I can't back any of the short price horses for that reason. Now, Pashmina would be a filly I would use in my horizontals. But, I think number 5, Funny Bunny, is cross-entered in an earlier race on this card, is a little bit sneaky in here. I mean, you look around this field, and like I said, a lot of these fillies have already lost to soft competition, or they've been proven by their connections have proven that they were willing to lose them already. So I think this race is a little ripe. And Funny Bunny for Whit Beckman, this horse was 6-1 on debut in a full field at Churchill for Whit, who wins very infrequently on debut. I thought that was noteworthy. Now, this filly has struggled to get out of the gate in both of her races, so we really don't know how good she is. She definitely showed she could finish in her last race when the blinkers went on. He takes them back off. Lots going on here. Going to be a big price, though, and I just don't trust anybody. I think there's some upside with this filly. And other than Pashmina, I don't know how much upside there is on the rest of this group.
That's a good point. I mean, the 2 Have Faith is running starters. The 3 Hit Parade's running starters. The 4 Hurricane Kate broke her maiden at Delta for a maiden claiming tag. Maiden claiming winner number 6, Miss Call, is cross-entered at Remington and looks to be, I think, in the stakes Saturday night at Remington Park, looks to be in a better spot there. Pashmina does have the maiden special weight win. Actus on the outsides won 2 in a row, but they were at Indianapolis and Delta Downs. And my trusty captain, Tom Amos. So it's not like they're actually coming off a lot of Broadway-type performances in this race. You've got one that's run twice at Churchill for open maiden specials. I mean, results maybe not mattering as much as the class of the horses that these horses have been up against.
That's the play here. I just can't get excited about it. Even Pashmina is tough for me. Maybe she figured it out with the blinkers and the surface switch, but, that was a 6-horse field where she was 9-5. Off of a race where she didn't do all that much running. So take it with a grain of salt.
And with Lasix, and now she's back off Lasix. So you've got to kind of just say, do you expect the same performance? And there's reason to question it if the price is on the shorter side. A tough addition, funny money, funny bunny. Hopefully it'll be funny money for Scott, winning there in the Untappable Stakes. Kind of a wide open race. I think you might want to use, several in there, as many as you can afford with the construction of your ticket and your budget in a multi-race play there at Fairgrounds on Saturday. To the 11th we go, the featured Gun Runner Stakes, of course, named for the 2016 Louisiana Derby winner, who in 2017 at 4 would win the Breeders' Cup Classic, and at 5 would end his career as a Pegasus World Cup winner. Gun Runner Stakes kicks off the road to the Louisiana Derby, a mile and a 16th, field of 8 in here. Built was a horse who ran, I believe, in the Gun Runner last year, or I think it was last year. He came back nicely yesterday. If you didn't see it, Fairgrounds, Built was one of those horses you thought might be a major player towards the Louisiana Derby series. Was decent earlier in the year, but boy, he came back in a lounge company, looked really, really sharp yesterday at Fairgrounds for Wayne Catalano. So keep an eye on Built moving forward in the handicap division. Which one of these Gun Runner alumni will become horses that we talk about on the trail to the Louisiana Derby? That's what we're going to find out Saturday in race number 11. Post time for that one around 6:45 Eastern. Scott, how do you want to fill out the Gun Runner top pick here?
Well, I think this race, the horses I'm most interested in moving forward are not the ones I'm most interested in betting in this race, and that's because there's not a lot of speed on paper. I think Mesquite, Liberty National, probably the two most upside horses, ones that I would, think have the best chance to get more distance. Even Very Connected for Kenny McPeak, who's just got one win by a neck, but I think that one will continue to get better as the distances get longer. But I want to be forward in this race, and I don't necessarily know if the best horse moving forward is going to win it. You've got horses like Crown the Buckeye and Mr. Punch to the outside. Crown the Buckeye, who has speed in the earlier Ohio bred races and has been very good, and I don't want to disrespect, but Jared Loveberry was very cool to sit off the pace last time after breaking okay in that first time going 2 turns. And then Mr. Punch to the outside, I don't quite know if he has the same speed as number 2, Chip Honcho, who's adding the blinkers, gets Pablo Lopez and has been involved early in races along the, shorter races. So I don't necessarily think Chip Honcho is a Derby contender at this point, but I definitely think he should make the lead in here, and that could mean a lot.
Blinkers, inside posts. He's shown some speed, stretching out the 2 turns off the 7 and the 1-turn mile. It's Chief Honcho, Scott taking in the Gun Runner Stakes. Let's introduce the fans to him.
It up, goes to the far outside. Prince of Light in with a shot still as they come off the turn. They've caught up to Chip Honcho. Here's Marauder. Marauder's alongside, but Chip Honcho has the answer so far. Turn back that first challenge. Big effort from Chip Honcho so far. Marauder's not backing down. Fuzzbuster third. Final 16th. Chip Honcho. Marauder. Chip Honcho. Marauder. Chip Honcho. Big time effort to wrap up the card.
Now, Jose Ortiz rode him in that race. He's going to take the mount on Mesquite for Cherie DeVos, coming off a really good week last week at Fairgrounds. Her horses were really firing, and when Cherie gets hot, you got to watch out. So Mesquite won the watch in there with Jose jumping off Chip Honcho to ride for a barn that's going well right now. Chip Honcho, Mesquite, the 2 inside runners. Liberty National out of post 3. I think Liberty National is going to go favorite in here. 7-2 in the morning line is a little lukewarm. I think the horse is going to get bet more than that. Good buyer last time, comparatively to some of the others in the field in the 80s. And for McPeak and Hernandez, that 4-length margin last time looks awfully good for a son of Maxfield. Maxfield's 2-year-old's pretty good first crop for him, and this one's out of an Awesome Again mare. Certainly distance not going to be an issue, and there was no pace help in that race at all for Liberty National at Churchill. They went 48-2, 112-4, and rallied and drew off. So I think Liberty National is going to get bet in here. I think he'll be a pretty solid favorite.
He was good to me that day. I loved him that day, and he was really, really good. My couple questions, the setup, the price, and probably most importantly, he's coming back quick. I don't necessarily know what I think of that. If he thinks he's got a Derby contender, I don't think he'd be bringing him back so quick. Maybe he's trying to strike while the iron's hot with this kind of horse. I don't know, but it seems like a little quick. I know he's talking about how great he's doing, but I've heard that before, and it's going to show up on the tote board.
Son of Gunrunner in here, number 6, Arabian Wild for Brad Cox. Cox has a trio of horses in here. Quality Mischief, the 4, Arabia Wild, the 6, and the 8, Mr. Punch. 3 Brad Cox runners in a field of 8, and probably none of them are going to vie for favoritism. So kind of an interesting group in that respect. Also an interesting horse in here for Mike Maker, Crown the Buckeye. This is an Ohio bred, as you mentioned, has shown good speed, was able to rally last time. It's kind of a mask unveiling day for Mike Maker. He's got an Ohio bred who's been dominating Ohio breds, trying open company in the Gun Runner. And we're going to talk about the Springboard Mile next, where he's got a New York bred who's going to get open company as one of the favorites in that race at Remington as well. So a couple regional stars in Ohio and New York bred ranks for Mike Maker. And we're going to find out their class test coming up this weekend. That's the Gun Runner Stakes on Saturday at the fairgrounds. Let's change venues now and take our game down to Oaklawn, Hot Springs, for second Saturday of the racing meet there at Oaklawn Park. The Tinsel Stakes, $150,000, mile and an eighth for older handicap horses. Field of 7 in this race includes the $3 million earner Rattle and Roll, big time purse money accumulated by that one. Money Supply has earned just under $1 million, including a couple wins over the track at Oaklawn for now trainer David Jacobson. Decent field of 7 in here as they start the trail towards the Oaklawn handicap later in the year. This mile and an eighth test, Willie Dees is going to run in here, was cross-entered in the stakes, the Jeffrey Hawk at Remington Park, but Willie Dees expected to run here at Oaklawn. And to me, I think he's the controlling speed in this race, Scott. There is not a lot of pace. As you're trying to catch a front runner in some other spots, other than Woodcourt, there's not much pace to go in this race. And I just think Willie Dees is a little more brilliant than Woodcourt is. If Willie Dees runs back to some of his better races, I think he's the one to beat. And I picked him on top in this particular spot. I'll get your thoughts in just a moment, but let's go back and take a look at Willie Dees in the Schaefer Memorial. When he gets to the front in a race like this at an intermediate kind of distance, I think he can be pretty effective.
Top of the stretch, 3/4, 1 and 9, 0.53 seconds. They straighten. Midnight West sweeps outside of This Is Oscar and Willie Dees responding to the pressure. It's Willie Dees for Johnny Velasquez. 1 furlong to go. Willie Dees in front, spurts away by better than 2. This is Oscar battling Midnight West. Kapuna back and forth. Midnight is 5th. They're close to home in the Michael G. Schaefer Memorial. Willie Dees with Johnny V. Willie V's won by 5.
Well, Francesco Arrieta, leading jockey last year at Oaklawn, aboard for Saturday's race, the Tinsel Stakes. I'm on Willie Dees in here, 9-5. Not tickled about the price, but I think he's the best, and I think he's got a pretty good pace advantage. I think he's faster than Woodcourt. Who do you like?
Yeah, Willie Dees is the one to beat. Little concerned about his 0-for-9 record over Oaklawn, which can be, of course, that matters at. But he's run some fast races there, and if he gets loose, I don't know how much that will matter. That said, I'm hoping Woodcourt puts pressure on him from the inside. He's run some big races there. I don't trust the Rattle and Roll, and like I said, Willie Dees, only the lack of affinity for the course, so don't trust him necessarily at the price. I'm going to take a big swing with Dymatic in here, who's run 2 of his 3 best races over this course. I think the last race, very meaningless in my opinion, just kind of getting him out of there from the rail. Had to show speed in a horse that doesn't want to do that. He chased the pace and tired. And if you look at the horses that he's faced, at Oaklawn last year, there's some pretty good ones in there. Saudi Crown, Mystic Dan, Banish. So, I don't think this field is too much for him from that perspective. We'll see if he's got it in him. I mean, Steve's been trying him against these spots. This is a little bit softer. Hopefully he can run his best race second off the bench.
Interesting entrant in here. Runaway again. 3-year-old taking on older horses. Runaway again. Won the Middle Jewel in the Canadian Triple Crown for Stronach Stables. The Prince of Wales Stakes. That was the only time we've seen Runaway again on the dirt. Has been running on the synthetic, of course, up at Woodbine. We'll see if he can keep a perfect dirt record together. Son of Hard Spun here in the Tinsel Stakes. Mile and eighth should suit him just fine, of course, on distance. Big class step up here, though. Leaving the Canadian bred ranks and trying dirt at a mile and an eighth against some, decent veteran U.S. horses in here. A lot to ask of the 3-year-old in here, and he doesn't get any kind of help on the weight break. He carries 122. He's going to carry more than Dymatic will in here, the older horse. So Runaway, again, interesting entrant, but he's got a lot to prove.
Yeah, he does. Interesting. David Jacobson owns a piece with Stronach now that he trains them with the Stronach Stables, of course, Adena Springs. So this is a homebred, of course, from Frank. And This horse has run some big races. It's just a very weird spot with one. The part that bugs me the most, I think, is only one local drill and 3 furlongs. But David Jacobson is not your conventional trainer, so I think anything goes in this spot.
Let's move from Oaklawn to Remington Park. We'll head west a little bit, go across I-40 and head into Oklahoma City, where a big week in sports. Friday night college football playoff in Norman, about 25, 30 miles south of Remington Park. And then on Saturday night, it's all about the Springboard Mile closing night card at Remington Park. 6 stakes races. They'll run in succession. The pick 6, the final 6 on the card, all stakes races, culminating with the Springboard Mile. Bet 100 on this card on Saturday at Remington Park. Get $10 back in wagering credits in your account when you play with First Bet and Express Bet. So basically a 10% rebate, if you will. Bet 100, get $10 back on the Saturday card for Springboard Mile night at Remington Park. Now, I worked at Remington Park for 4 racing seasons, back from 94 to 98, 5 racing seasons spanning over 4 years, and still home away from home for me. So I look at this race with a lot of reverence. Springboard Mile is 25 years old this year. Didn't exist back when I ran there. When I worked there, it was a spring thoroughbred meet there during the time at Remington Park during my days there, and then a fall meet. But we had a good 2-year-old race, the Mathis Brothers Futurity, but we did not have the Springboard Mile. More of a newer convention, if you will, but when you're 25 years old now, you can't claim that it's too new. But this race has gotten Kentucky Derby qualifying points in recent years. Famous winners like Senor Buscador have come through here. Caleb's Posse ran in this race as well. So potential for some nice horses. This year's field, the field of 12, they usually get a capacity field in this race, and there's no standout in terms of like credentials, Scott. Spice Runner was Jerry Schottenkirk's morning line favorite in here based on the fact that it's Asmussen, it's Stuart Elliott, and he's the only graded stakes winner in the field, winning the Iroquois. But he's lost his last 2 pretty convincingly, and I could certainly see somebody taking a swing against Spice Runner in this spot.
Right, exactly. There's 2 horses I like quite a bit in here. Neither of them are Spice Runner. And then the third one I think that's interesting is the New York bred that you mentioned earlier for Maker with his state bred taking on Open Company. And that's Arctic Beast. I ended up picking Time for Music, and I'll get to him in 1 second. I know we're going to take a look back at his replay. But I got to really push number 10 Big Apple Patrick as well. It's just not a horse with his outside draw that I felt I should pick on top here with conviction, but he might be the one I'm betting, and I like to kind of be able to voice that out. He is a serious horse, I think, and he's got to prove himself over a fast main track and with that outside post out of Kentucky, but he's one I would keep an eye on, especially if his price balloons. But Time for Music to me is the one that's going to get the right trip in here. I think he's kind of progressing perfectly for this race. I don't think going to be Steve Asmussen's first Derby winner, but you go back into his races. The Ellis Park debut showed good speed from the rail when the outside was good, got caught up in a duel, no big deal there, then chased the pace in his second start, and then I think he showed the ability to relax in his next couple of starts and finish, which bodes well for his chances here. Stretches out the 2 turns, but not a big stretch out, and I just think he's going to get a really good trip along the inside under Steve's son Eric.
You mentioned Steve looking for that first Kentucky Derby win. That's been elusive. Springboard Mile has not been. He's won 7 of them to date. He's the all-time leading trainer there in Oklahoma City and running away with the meet title this year. His son Eric has been aboard many of those wins this year, and they'll team up again on Saturday. Here is Time for Music, breaking his maiden 2 starts back at Keeneland.
A quarter mile to go. It is Like Water leading Maximum Effort just off the leader's flank now. Here comes Maximum Effort moving up to the outside, draws alongside of Like Water. Time for Music seeks to join them, has to go to the far outside. Maximum Effort takes the lead by a neck. Like Water is there to the inside, but second. Time for Music comes on with clear running from the outside from third to second. Now Time for Music takes aim at Maximum Effort past the 16th pole. Time for Music runs to the front. Time for Music by a neck. It is Time for Music and Keith James Asmussen by a neck on the wire.
Stable exactly in that race at Keeneland. Came back and ran a good second at Churchill, rallying there in the 1/3 mile. Time for Music, really that grinding style through the stretch might be effective in this race, Scott. Stretching out around 2 turns, several horses here going the mile trip. And I went and looked at the brisk late pace figures, trying to get a little tip in this race on who might be able to finish best. And they're very modest. I don't see a lot of closing kick in here from the horses going from one turn to two. I thought that Arctic Beast late pace figures in the races where he was superior at Finger Lakes in the last couple are good enough maybe to just get to the front and not stop in this particular race, because I don't trust a big time closer. I do think the horse you talked about earlier, Big Apple Patrick, could be an interesting closer in this spot. Did rally in the debut around one turn when going two turns last time. I think this horse just ended up on the lead, and I don't think that was really the spot where he wanted to be. They went 113-4 over a sloppy track, and that's kind of why he defaulted to the front. Maybe got a little bit lost in that race. I think he's got to be a closer in this particular spot. And when you think about sprint type pedigrees, right? I mean, Time for Music, the Dam Sire's too much bling. I mean, you're looking sprint there. Arctic Beast, the one is out by Yalpon. You know, you think sprint there. If they're going to get a distance, it's the 10, Big Apple Patrick. Union Rags on top, Lemon Drop Kid on the bottom. It's Belmont Stakes over Belmont Stakes winner, you right? I mean, so Big Apple Patrick is really interesting in this spot, and had he drawn a little better, I think I would have picked him on top in here. I ended up going with Arctic Beast, kind of a default pick, and I admit as much in that I think he removes the variables, right? Who can get a distance? I don't know. But what I do know, trip, who's going to be wide, who's going to, get a rally, all those things are question marks. What I know about this horse is he's speed on the rail with the speed jock in Ricardo Santana Jr. He's just going to go. And all the variables are gone. It's just a matter of whether or not he can get a mile or not. And so I'm going to take him as a default. He's 4-1 in the morning line. I think he'll go shorter than that. His speed figures kind of give him a little bit of an edge over some of these. And I think the national simulcast audience will probably end up backing him pretty well. So Arctic Beast to pick in here, but I don't have a lot of conviction. I actually would, like you, I kind of want to just bet Big Apple Patrick if it works out that way.
Yeah, I'm a little worried. Me, you, and one other sharp person came up with this horse without talking to each other. So maybe this horse is going to take more money than we think. And, the low profile connections, the slop, the tough post won't help. But he's the one I want out of this race coming into it. He's the one I have my eye on for bigger things as we move forward. Obviously, Arctic Beast might be the best here, but I'd be very, very surprised if this horse goes on and, wants tons of ground.
Among the locals, keep an eye on number 4, Royal American. This is an Oklahoma bred who's well thought of by C.R. Trout, veteran horseman there in Oklahoma. They thought a lot of this horse in the spring. Were very surprised that he got beat in his first two when narrowly second, but his last two have been good. He's won 2 turns already in the Don McNeil Stakes against State Breds. I know it's a big step up in class in here, but if for some reason the other horses don't get the trip, don't handle the surface, it's not a quirky surface at Remington. Most horses come here and kind of keep their form. I would expect that would happen. But if for some reason they don't, Royal American's the local, the 4 here that you might get a fair price on and worth using in the exotics. And who knows, maybe could pull the upset in the Springboard Mile. That's going to wrap up our handicapping for this week's First Call podcast. Scott and I will be back next week. Regular time, because next week we're post-Christmas on Friday, of course. So we will be doing some handicapping towards the weekend stakes. Want to remind you, between now and then, you've got the big opening day at Santa Anita coming up next week on Boxing Day, December 26th, day after Christmas. So keep an eye on all the information we have for you on the website, First Bet and Express Bet, for our handicapping towards opening day at Santa Anita. But by the time we reconvene next week, we will be talking on the 26th. It'll be the day after Christmas, and we'll be looking forward to some weekend stakes next week, Scott.
Absolutely. So in the meanwhile, best of luck, though, to everybody this weekend, of course, with all the great action at Gulfstream, Fairgrounds, and whatnot. Definitely take advantage of that Exactathon promotion. And happy holidays. Merry Christmas to everybody out there. We'll be back on the other side of Santa.
All right. On behalf of everybody with First Bet and Express Bet, our holiday wishes from ours to yours. Have a great one, everybody. We'll talk to you next week.